In this short video, I will guide you through the proper troubleshooting procedure to locate a defective circulator pump on the gas boiler simulator. Begin by clicking on the thermostat icon here at the bottom right of the page. Once at the thermostat, click the system selector switch to heat. This will also turn up the temperature setting, making the boiler call for heat. Next, we're going to click on the boiler icon, which will take us to the boiler. An easy way to proceed here, especially if you're new at this, is to use the procedure guide up here at the top left of the page. If we click on that, we can see that our first step was to set the system switch on the thermostat to heat, which we've done. Our next step is to determine if the circulator has in fact started. Well, before we do that, we could take a quick look here and see that the burners are lit. And we want to click on this little box and click the magnifying glass, which will take us right to the circulator. Now, the circulator may produce some mechanical noise, but often it's very difficult to hear that if the system is free of air, which it should be. A graphic is often provided on these sims to determine if a component is actually running. It would be kind of a spinning blue arrow here, and we can see that that's not present, so the circulator pump is not running. This leads us to a couple possible faults. One would be the combination aquastat relay, which sends 120 volts to the circulator pump when the thermostat calls for heat. It also could simply be that the circulator is faulty. So our next step is to check and see if we've got 120 volts at the aquastat terminals L1 and L2. So if we click the magnifying glass, it'll take us right to the combination aquastat and conveniently remove the cover. If we look down here in the bottom right, and again it may be necessary to rotate or zoom in to locate the terminals, we can see the L1 and L2 terminals. We're going to click on the toolbox tab up here at the top left and take the multimeter out of the toolbox, or the digital voltometer. We're going to click it to the volts, AC volts position, and we're going to place each of the leads on the glowing hotspots at L1 and L2. And as we do that, we can see that in fact we have 120 volts at the aquastat, meaning we have main power going to the aquastat, and we kind of already knew that because the burner's fired. Our next step is to determine if the aquastat is sending power to the circulator. Now there's a set of relay contacts between L1 and C1 here. So if you look here on the procedure guide, it says, do we have 120 volts at C1 and C2? So at this point, we can simply move the meter leads to C1 and C2, and again we have 120 volts, so the aquastat is functioning like it should be. It's sending 120 volts to the circulator pump. Our next step is to check and see if we actually are receiving the 120 volts at the circulator terminals. Now it may be something simple as a loose wiring connection, which can be easily found. You can simply tighten the wires prior to replacing any component. So we're going to click the magnifying glass and we're going to go back to the circulator. We're going to click on the meter leads and we're going to place them across the glowing hotspots on the circulator pump. Again, if you need to rotate or zoom in, that's easy to do. We're dropping the meter leads here, and we can see that in fact we have 120 volts going to the circulator pump and it's not running. This verifies that the circulator is faulty. An additional check on an actual system would allow you to actually do a resistance check of the circulator pump motor. There's also a small capacitor inside the circulator cover that could in fact be at fault. In this case here, we're going to replace the circulator pump. Okay, double click it, click replace. This is going to cost $230, which will be recorded on the invoice, and again that can be accessed using this tab at the top left, the $sign tab, and we're going to proceed, and we can see that that corrects our problem. We're going to store the meter back in the toolbox. Last but not least, you do need to clean the work area and replace all caps and covers. So if we kind of look around, we can back out here a little bit and look on the floor, and you'll see there's a cover here for the aquastat. We'll click on that. That will replace that cover. If we rotate around, we can see that on the floor here is the burner cover for the boiler. We'll click on that and that will replace that. Last but not least, we want to click on the broom to clean the work area. Good luck!
Hey, it is Craig with Interplay Learning. We hope you enjoyed this last video. The easiest way to keep up with all of our latest videos is by subscribing to our page right here. Just to let you know, if you're interested to learn how simulations are critical to onboarding and improving you or your employees' performance in the field, please visit us at interplay-learning.com.